Welcome. I'm Lindsay from Mystic Haven Acres, and this is my podcast, Living for Real. Thanks for joining me. I'm here to share my experiences as someone who never quite fit in and shed some light on life's simple and not so simple things. A single mama, born and raised in the GTA, now living a peaceful rural homesteading life with my kids and critters, and I can't wait to share with you some of the magic I have learned along the way. I pride myself in real living, real food, real conversations, and real experiences. So leave your preconceived notions at the door and buckle up. This free spirit is about to take you for an interesting ride. Hey, and welcome back. I know I have been kind of MIA for a little while. There's been a lot going on, both on the farm, being it's spring and all, and I ran into a little bit of a health thing back in March, which kind of upset the apple cart, if you will. And, but I'm here now. I'd like to talk about that. So I want to start today's episode with a statistic. And it's a statistic that I actually found quite shocking. So in 2019, there were nearly 2 million breast augmentation surgeries. Now, I didn't go so far to see if that was in Canada or the US or North America or the world. But honestly, I don't think that really matters because 2 million is huge in my mind. Anyways, that's a lot of people. 2 million people had breast augmentations done in 2019 alone. So why am I bringing this up? Well, about a month ago, one of my implants ruptured. Thankfully, they were saline and nobody seems to think this is a major problem. So here I sit about a month later, waiting for my surgery. Now, given the realm of my podcast, this might be shocking to you. And that's okay. That's why I'm talking about it. Because living for real and breast implants are kind of contradictory. At least in my mind, they are. And going back to before I had them, there was a lot of conflict. It was something that I had thought about for a long time. I was the last of 2 generations of women in my family to have this procedure done. So there was that. But I had a lot of conflict within myself because, one, it's fake. Let's be honest. It's fake. It's what it is. And I was very much against fakeness. I was very much about loving the skin you're in and loving who you are and not trying to change that to make yourself happy, to make other people happy, to whatever. That all said, I was in a really low point in my life when I made this decision. And it had been a few years since I had gotten out of my marriage where I was cheated on repeatedly. And in fact, when I think back, almost every relationship I've ever had, I had been cheated on. So one of the things that was going through my mind was, there must be something wrong with me. Why does every man cheat on me? There must be something wrong with me. And the only thing that I could come up with, and see this as you may, but the only thing that I could come up with was that it was because I didn't have boobs.
I didn't have nice big boobs to keep them happy, because that's what men like, right? Men like boobs. This is what the thought process was in my head. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that has this thought process. But anyways, this was my story. And so the opportunity came up and I decided to go for it. And as you can imagine, many of my friends and family were surprised by this announcement, because anyone that knew me knew that this was against so many things that I believed in. You know, I ate well. I didn't want toxins in my body. I was very careful about what I ate. And even so far as perfumes or using scented laundry detergents or everything, I was very toxic conscious. And then here I was getting ready to have breast implants, because I honestly thought that it might just solve the problem. And I mean, that wasn't the only problem. I remember shopping, specifically bra shopping, but all shopping, but specifically bra shopping. And I remember, I can't tell you the number of times that I would walk out of places like La Senza or Victoria's Secret or wherever in tears, because I couldn't find a bra that fit. And I know that might sound silly, but it was a lot. And I think to add to that, growing up, my family was in the lingerie business. We actually had a chain of lingerie stores long before La Senza and La Vie and all those other stores were around. We had a lingerie business. And so I grew up around pretty lingerie. And it hurt knowing that I couldn't wear this pretty lingerie because I didn't fill it out. I would never be able to wear the pretty lingerie that I grew up surrounded by because I couldn't fill it out. Again, as silly as that sounds, this was my story. So I went through with the surgery sometime in the second half of 2018. And initially, I was ecstatic. I was so happy. I went out and bought what I called my first real bra. No padding, no lining, pretty lace. I was so excited. So excited. But it wasn't only that. Something else that had bothered me for years was that everyday clothing didn't fit right in my mind. Nothing looked right, which is ridiculous because what does that even mean? What was I basing that on? Just what I saw in the world around me, right? Oh, that dress looks so pretty the way it sits on her figure, but it'll never sit like that on my figure because I don't have the boobs to fill it out. I also had this thought that how could you be a real woman without breasts? And don't get me wrong. Of course, I do have breasts. I did have breasts. They were just very small breasts, which at times I was okay with, but obviously in the long run, it ate away at me enough that I felt insufficient. So why am I talking about this now? Well, when the implant ruptured, I was given the option to have it replaced. I mean, I had only had them 4.5 years, so they were well within the warranty. And to have it replaced would cost me just the cost of the anesthetic. Everything else would be covered. But I wasn't sure that that's what I wanted done. I had actually considered having them removed over the past 3 years, except I didn't want to walk into any medical institution during that time for obvious or maybe not so obvious reasons. But I didn't feel confident in walking into a medical institution to have the procedure done. So I just wrote it out and thought, well, when this is all behind us, maybe I'll do it then. So the interesting thing is, if I want to have them out, it might only partially be covered under warranty. It's funny that if I want to replace it with their toxic product, they basically cover everything. But if I want their toxic product out of me that failed, it's going to cost me. But that's a price that I've decided I'm willing to pay because my health is more important. And not just my physical health, but my mental health. Like I say, implants goes against so much that I stand for, that I believe in, and the hypocrisy of carrying them in my body has eaten away at me for sure. And I know there are some women that get them and they absolutely love them and they have them for years and years, and they even go so far as having them replaced every 10 years as recommended. And they love them and they couldn't or don't want to live without them. And that's fine, to each their own. But the reason that I wanted to talk about this was because how many women, how many people, especially women, feel like they are not enough because of, and I mean, it goes far beyond breasts. I mean, sure, there were 2 million breast augmentation surgeries in 2019, and that's a lot. But to give you some perspective, it said that was only 15.8% of all the plastic surgeries performed that year, which means there was nearly 85% more other plastic surgeries performed. And I know some of those will be, breast cancer survivors or accident survivors, whatever, right? There's always that handful of people that something has happened and it's not just a choice that they're making to have this done. But regardless, that's a lot of people. A lot of people going under the knife because they feel that the way they are is not enough. The way that they physically present in the world is not enough. They're too big, they're too small, they're too flabby, they're too skinny, whatever. The number of surgeries that are out there, it just blows me away. And it makes me really sad. It makes me really sad that many people are so unhappy with their physical appearance when your physical appearance really doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. You are perfect just the way you are. Our uniqueness is so special and we need to embrace it. And something else that really ate away at me was knowing that I have 2 daughters that are coming of the age of puberty, and thinking back to when I was their age and looking at my mother, because, you were in school and you were taught in sex ed that basically women grow up to resemble their mothers body structure wise. And of course, boys grow up to resemble their fathers, or other family members. But I mean, you look at your family and that's what you kind of expect to develop into to some degree, right? Well, I didn't know. I didn't know as a child that my mother and my aunt had the surgery done. I had no idea as a child. I just thought, well, I'm fine. I'm going to grow up and it'll be all great. And then, of course, my breast didn't develop like that because that wasn't how my genetics were coded. That was never going to happen naturally for me. And so going back to my own children, I know even before I had the surgery, I thought, because this was after my kids, and I thought, I don't want to give them that false image in their head, that false expectation of what they're going to grow into. And the disappointment that follows that when you realize or learn that that's just not going to happen. And not only that, but what type of a role model am I telling my kids to love who they are and that they are perfect as they are? What kind of a role model am I if I'm butchering myself? If I'm not comfortable in my own skin, how can I tell them that? And why would they believe it? If I'm telling them one thing and showing them another, why would they believe it for themselves? So that was definitely weighing on me before and continues to weigh on me. And it definitely played a part in my decision to go through with having them removed, which will happen in about a month's time. And I think about all these young people that truly don't know who they are yet, right? We all go through that. We're trying to figure that out. And for some, it takes longer than others. It's not to say that it's just, it's just a puberty thing or a pre-puberty thing or a post-puberty thing or whatever. It can take years, depending on your support and influences and whatever. And actually going in and actually finding your true self. And so to think of all these young people now that are getting pushed through transgender surgeries and hormone therapies and all of that is just gut-wrenching to me. Because, I made this decision as an adult. I was over 30 years old when I made this decision to have this surgery done. And to regret it such a short time after and to have so much turmoil even before going through with it. How can a child possibly have the capacity to make those decisions when I, as an adult, struggled with a relatively simple, reversible decision? Thankfully. But it just goes to show how influenced we are by the outside world, even when it's not pushed on us specifically, right? Nobody in my family ever made me feel like I wasn't enough because of the way I physically was. I never got that from my family. And I don't even know that anyone specifically in the world forced that on me. It was simply my sitting back and observing and assessing my own experience in the world that pushed me to feel like I wasn't enough the way that I was. And I think these kids are so impressionable, even more than adults. And anyone that tries to argue that, well, yeah, I don't understand. But children especially are so impressionable. They're learning, right? They're like sponges. And so even if it's not blatantly pushed on them, just the exposure triggers curiosity and wonder in their brain, as it does with anybody, but they don't have the ability to filter it. And that's what the adults in their lives are supposed to help them with, are supposed to support them through. They talk about how much body dysmorphia there is today. And it's no surprise. Look at all the Photoshop. Look at all the filters. Look at the way people portray themselves on social media. Look at the advertisements. There's so much. And I mean, there are companies that have gotten better at portraying real, natural people. Dove is one that comes to mind. But at the same time, have they taken it too far in some regards? Telling people certain things are healthy when they aren't. I think the key is body shaming isn't the way to go at this, regardless of what end of the scale you're on. I think the real key here is supporting people where they are, letting people truly understand that their exterior shell doesn't define them. I know lots of skinny people, myself included, that are not in the best shape physically, couldn't run a marathon. You might look at me and think, oh yeah, she could, but no, I couldn't. And I know much heavier set people that could outrun me any day of the week. It's not all about size. It's not all about body fat. It's not all about breast size or butt size or lip size. It's like so many of the things that we should be thinking about and worrying about and doing on a daily basis have been stripped from us. And I know I keep going back to this, thanks to convenience. And so we're grasping at anything to give us a sense of purpose. You know, if there's nothing that we have to be good at, if we don't have to be good at finding food, making food, cleaning our house, growing vegetables, if we don't have to be good at any of those things, those normal, natural things for survival, well, we have to be good at something. Well, let's focus on ourselves. Let's hyper-focus on ourselves. So now we're left with the only thing, the only attribute that makes us desirable, because none of those other things matter. I'm speaking very broadly at this point, so bear with me. I'm trying to make a point. Is physical appearance. There's no other competition. Nothing else matters anymore. You don't have to know how to read. You don't have to know how to write. Technology will do it all. You don't have to know how to cook. You don't have to know how to clean. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people care about those things. There are still people out there that do care about those things. But 2 million people went in for breast augmentation surgery in 2019 alone. If that doesn't say something, I don't know what does. When boob jobs are almost as common as belly buttons, there's a problem. And I would love to have the opportunity to discuss any of this further with anybody that's willing, because I think it's important. And I think it's something that needs to be discussed, especially with our younger generations. You know, everybody says that appearance doesn't matter, and yet everywhere you turn, it seems like everything is about appearance. Everything. It's the number one thing I would say that people judge other people on: appearance. Be it height, weight, skin color, age, hair color, put togetherness, disheveledness, cleanliness, right? Before anybody even has the chance to open their mouth, they're judged by appearance. Heck, we even do it to ourselves, don't we? I hope if you know somebody that's on the fence about having this surgery done, I hope you share this with them, and I hope it sheds a light that they may or may not have seen before. If you know somebody that has already gone through this, I hope sharing this makes them feel less alone. And I hope that it helps the parents that it reaches remember that our kids are watching us, that our kids build expectations around what they see in us, by us, of us. Let's support authenticity. Let's support the beauty of self and the beauty of uniqueness. Let's support realness. Because while it's fun to play dress up and make believe and all of those things, there is something so magnificent about just being you and being comfortable wholeheartedly in your own skin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review and share with your friends and family. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss upcoming episodes. And thanks again. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.